speech to be delivered today along with the welcome, but as the Honorable Minister of Justice and one ambassador wants to leave this place a bit early, I will, if time permits, I will deliver it in due course. Otherwise, I will welcome officially all of you. I welcome the Honorable Minister M. Ali Sabri, Attorney General of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, and the senior additional secretaries and the secretaries participating here today, and the other senior government officials participated in this ceremony, and His Excellency the Ambassador of South Africa, Her Excellency the Ambassador of Switzerland, and the members of the United States, the Embassy of United States of America, and the other dignitaries, and the senior officials of the Triforces, and the senior officials of the Police Department, and the Office of National Unity and Reconciliation Chairman, and the Chairman of the Office of Reparation, and some of the participants who are invited here to represent the non-government organizations, INGOs, and the other government organizations, and the members of the missing people's families. So I welcome all of you all to this event. This is a much awaited event which we wanted to organize last couple of years, but unfortunately various reasons didn't allow us to hold this. But today, after a long time, we could manage to organize this. So therefore, we will be very much grateful for all of you, our minister and their excellencies, the ambassadors, and the other top officials, and all of you to gather here to honor these people and commemorate these people who have gone missing from us. And I warmly welcome all of you. Thank you.
Glad that actually we are gathering today on a significant day, particularly to remember what happened to the country and the people who have reported as missing. Dealing the past is not easy. We have learned from the other countries, so it's really painful to the people who have lost their lives and also the people who are working with the people who have lost their lives. So the Office on Missing Persons is established in 2018, particularly to deal the matters related to the missing persons. Nevertheless, actually not like the other countries, the Office on Missing Persons in Sri Lanka established through an act with the Parliament as a permanent mission, permanent independent institution to deal the matters related to the missing persons. We have taken maximum efforts to deal the issues. We have hired the officials, we have enhanced the capacity of those officials, but suddenly because of the economic crisis and COVID-19, we had to lose them. We lost many people who have been trained by the previous commission and also the other institutions who have supported. But though our mission has not stopped, there are changes, there are pushing factors which compel us to stop and think the way how we can move forward from the step which has been taken by the global communities. But then later we realized from the global experiences we should have our own chapter. That's called Sri Lankan chapter. we can learn from the other countries that cannot be replicated by any countries simply until otherwise it's contextualized into the local knowledge which we are gathering from you all by working together. So we have taken a kind of free and fair trial by having phase 1, 6,025 cases as the first phase cases. And we met the families, the previous commission and the current commission, we were able to meet the families and then to learn from them what happened. Because not like the other countries, the missing person context in Sri Lanka is really complex. It's basically, there are a lot of issues merging, and then as the 15 years gone, there are other revolving issues and new issues coming up. So basically the people who have already victimized had to face a lot of multiple victimization because of the delays in which we have particularly producing positive results to the lives of the people. So that is one of the reasons why we thought of having this event, significant day, to ensure the accountability part by having a working group or a kind of steering group to ensure that we all are committed and we have lightened the hope to the people who have been affected and then to work from here. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this day. And then the 30th of August, the families, they can take up these messages at various levels to different forums. So this day, I'm glad actually the first time in Sri Lanka that we all gather for a reason, especially to work with the missing persons and enforced disappearances. As of the head of the institution, on behalf of chairman and the board, I can say very frankly and then openly that there are no any enforced disappearance cases reported in the past 5 to 7 years in Sri Lanka. So that is very good move that very clearly indicate that we have to deal with the backlog cases which have been reported as missing with a lot of various issues. So that is one of the best thing actually which we have taken a clear message to the people, the zero tolerance of enforced disappearance in this country. So now we have to work more closely with the families and together with the other commissions like reparations and ONUR and also the interim secretariat on Truth Commission, who all are here as an evidence to witnessing the support which you have tendered to us. So I'm glad that actually we are on a track and together with the UN's Residence Coordinator's Office and IOM, we have done a very good study on the organizational need assessment which has been already published. And together with the Swiss Embassy and then South African Embassy, we are working how to work the past, how to deal the past with those families. And ICRC is tendering our support particularly for the digitalization process as well as strengthening the tracing unit. So these kind of unique system should be further strengthened. And also I'm glad the way how we are working with the National Steering Committee, which was established in January 2024, early this year, under the presidency of Honorable President, where the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Foreign Affairs with OR, ONUR and Interim Secretariat, we have committed to bring this issue to the national level and also to work at various levels in a productive way. So it's not too late, though the 15 years gone, but we are committed and we are happy that we are on the right track and then we have a clear vision to move forward. And the way how we can move forward, just we have a clear roadmap. We have developed already and also we will invite you all particularly to have a clear consultation in order to have a strategic roadmap. Earlier we have developed one in consultation with the stakeholders together with the USAID support and Embassy of USA, they have supported. But near future we will have another round of discussion particularly to revise the existing one and then to see how best all these agencies we can work together in line with the national integration and reconciliation. So that's the takeaway messages for us, take-home messages for us. Again, thank you so much for being with us today and witnessing this event as significant. and let's travel together for the betterment of the people who have been suffered so much. Thank you so much.
Aibuan, Fanakam, and good afternoon. On the day like this, it becomes very difficult for a South African to come in. When I was asked to come and talk and share reflections on South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I asked the chair and the deputy chair, executive director, as to how do you place it within the context of this key, important, critical day? Because it's very difficult for a South African to come and talk and from a theoretical point of view, because we talk a lived experience. Disappearance, missing persons is a lived experience. In the South African context, it's very difficult to find a family that does not know any person that has disappeared, any person that went missing, in the street, in the family where you're in, and everywhere. We're coming from that history. There's nobody who does not know any member of the family who has not disappeared, or any person in the neighborhood who has not disappeared. And the system that dealt with all of this is a system that was declared by the United Nations a crime against humanity. But then, nonetheless, on the basis of the request that was extended and an invitation that was extended to me, let me begin by expressing my appreciation for the invitation to share South Africa's experience relating to this critical matter of the Truth and Reconciliation, and its own experience in terms of the transitional justice, work in progress. The South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, as well as this process, was established in terms of the Promotion of National Unity and Reconciliation Act number 34 of 1995. It was the idea and the intention of the concept of restorative justice instead of punitive justice that the Commission was mandated to bear witness and to record and grant where applicable, amnesty. It is the Commission, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that specifically sought first to discover the causes and the nature of human rights violation in our country. Secondly, to identify the victims with the view to paying, dealing, addressing them, paying and dealing with addressing the sources and the pain inflicted by the system that oppressed our people. Operationally, the mandate of the South African Commission focused on the period between 1960 and 1994. It investigated gross human rights violation during that period, including abductions, killings, and torture. Importantly, its mandate covered both the violation by both the state as well as on the side of the liberation movements who were fighting for freedom from an oppressive and repressive state that had all the might of a state and the most powerful state in Africa. To realize this mandate, it was the view of South Africans that they had to be confident in the process, and it was the view of South Africans that the process should be victim-centered and that the process be transparent. The communities and citizens had to have confidence in the process, and it was determined that public trust was an essential element in the process of reconciliation and truth-seeking. The South African TRC was comprised of 17 commissioners 9 men and 8 women of different races, religions, ethnicities, and professions. The late Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu chaired the commission. As we're sitting here, I still remember him vividly when he was given the assignment, how he cried to Nelson Mandela. And how Nelson Mandela said to him, listen, you are crying as an individual, given the magnitude of the problem. What about the nation that is bleeding? Go and deliver. The commissioners were supported by approximately 300 staff members who were divided into 3 committees. The first committee was the Human Rights Violation Committee, which was tasked to investigate human rights abuses that occurred between March 1960 and May 1994. The second was the Amnesty Committee and the Rehabilitation Committee, which functioned to restore the victim's dignity and preparing proposals to assist with rehabilitation. The third was the much debated Amnesty Committee, which considered applications from individuals who had applied for amnesty as per the provision of the National Unity and Reconciliation Act. In theory, Mr. Chairman, the Truth and Reconciliation was empowered to grant amnesty to those charged with atrocities during apartheid, as long as 2 conditions were met. The crimes were politically motivated, and the entire and the whole truth was told by the person seeking amnesty. To avoid victors' justice, no one side was exempted from appearing before the commission. In terms of the process, public hearings of Human Rights Violations Committee and Amnesty Committee were held at many venues throughout the country in a transparent and open manner. In terms of the numbers, the commission received 19,050 people who came in who had been victims of gross human rights violation. An additional 2,975 victims were identified through the applications for amnesty. In reporting these numbers, the Commission expressed regret that there was very little overlap of victims between those seeking restitution and those seeking amnesty. A total number of 5,392 amnesty applications were refused, granting only 849 out of the 7,111 applications. And those whose applications have been refused are currently facing prosecution in South Africa more than 20 years after the TRC. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa was quite different from its predecessors in different parts of the world. It practiced neither impunity nor vengeance. As Professor Mahmoud Mamdani in his writings observed, for example, generally the Nuremberg is regarded as a template with which to define responsibility for mass violence. Their view is that where mass violence is involved, there is always a choice between judicial approaches enforced by the victors or external powers, which tends to exclude the losing parties from any potential and political settlement and negotiations, which necessarily involves all parties in discussions about the future, whatever the crimes they have committed. The logic of Nuremberg, and by extension, the ICC, tends to drive parties in a civil war away from inclusive solutions towards segregation and military victories. South Africa's approach avoided this. As I've said, Chairperson, although the TRC was operationally concluded in 1998, The work of the Commission is still ongoing today. It has been 28 years since the established DRC and its recommendations, and that its recommendations are being executed through the National Prosecuting Authority, with the Department of Justice as the custodians of the report and recommendations of the DRC. And many of those recommendations are still being implemented. In other words, they constituted a government program under the Reconstruction and Development Program of the government. I should also acknowledge that it has not been an easy process, nor has it not been without challenges. Reconciliation does not require that we forget our past or forget our loved ones, but it provides the opportunity to find closure and honor those that we have lost. In the South African context, we continue to give the slogan to the effect that those that were lost during the liberation struggle, their blood continues to today to nourish the tree of freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been 15 years since the end of the Sri Lankan Civil War, and families of the disappeared are still waiting and hoping to hear what has happened to their loved ones. The history and the context of Sri Lanka's enforced disappearances and the cries of the families of the victims and affected communities resonates deeply with us as South Africans. South Africa was confronted with its own history of violence and enforced disappearances, a history which we continue to grapple with today. We know that the commitment and actions of government to give victims and their families answers in justice continues. The process might be at times very slow and laborious, but the work to ensure justice must continue. Institutions such as the Office for the Missing Persons, the Office for Reparation, the Office for National Unity and Reconciliation, and the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka are critical, and they are important vehicles towards justice, reconciliation, and nation building. Both our countries, South Africa and Sri Lanka, are signatories to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances. Certainly, all of us then in this room have the responsibility to protect and assist the victims and their families, as well as to provide adequate standards of living, reparations, redress, compensation, and with all that put together, truth, as well as justice in terms of the explanation surrounding the circumstances of the disappeared. For this reason, South Africa will continue to encourage the government and its agencies, as well as the families of the affected communities, the different organizations in this country, members of the civil society, to continue with the work that they are doing in looking and in searching for a formidable answer that will assist the country in moving forward. On this occasion of this important day, we believe that any mechanism that should be put in place should be victim-centered and continues to safeguard the dignity and rights of the victims, their families, and society. We support the efforts of the Sri Lankan government on this process and continue to remain available to share our experiences and knowledge. As you work to secure justice for the country, let me conclude with what my former minister during the visit of the Sri Lankan delegation to South Africa in 2022, led by Honorable Sabri and the then Minister of Justice, Minister Rajapaksa. Dr. Naledi Pandor, in her conclusion, told the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I quote, "Our situation is not perfect. Amnesty granted to some may have led to some getting away with atrocities. This remains a concern for many in our country. Also, reparations were not regarded as satisfactory by the families who received them. The third concern is from families who lost loved ones, and there none of the statutory forced army police were willing to come forward and take responsibility for their actions. Reconciliation is an important and a necessary process, but it is not a perfect process." I thank you all.
It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here today on the occasion of the International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearances. This day serves as a reminder of the countless individuals around the world who have disappeared without a trace, leaving their families and communities in a state of enduring grief. Today we gather not only to remember the victims, but also to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring the right to truth and justice of their families. For Switzerland, dealing with the past is one of the core thematic areas to promote peace and reconciliation globally and in Sri Lanka. Our efforts are guided by 4 key principles: the right to know, the right to justice, the right to reparation, and the guarantee of non-recurrence. These principles are vital to the healing process of societies torn apart by conflict. In almost all armed conflicts, people go missing, creating a humanitarian tragedy that affects not just the victims, but their families and society at large. The issue of missing persons, if left unaddressed, can become a serious obstacle to peace and reconciliation. This is why addressing the question of missing persons is a priority for Switzerland as part of its foreign peace policy. We strongly believe that dealing with this issue is essential to building peace, and not only peace, but sustainable peace. And we are working on it in various geographical contexts as well as on a multilateral level. An example of this is the Global Alliance for the Missing, which was initiated by Switzerland and the International Committee of the Red Cross in 2021. In Sri Lanka too, addressing the question of missing persons is key to advancing sustainable peace and reconciliation. I have experienced in many meetings with families of the disappeared, in the north as well as in the south, how crucial this is. The grief is still very much there, and the quest for justice is crucial to these families. We acknowledge and appreciate, therefore, the efforts made by the Sri Lankan government in this regard. The ratification of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances was a significant step forward. This convention is the primary international legal instrument concerning enforced disappearances. And we encourage the Sri Lankan government to continue its collaboration with the committee overseeing its implementation. We also commend the passage of domestic legislation in 2018 that criminalizes enforced disappearances. The establishment of the Office of Missing Persons, OMP, is of course a critical milestone. With the primary objective to trace missing persons, it has been endowed with a strong mandate and extensive powers to search for the fate and whereabouts of the missing, provide answers to the families, and protect their rights. As such, the OMP is indeed an essential institution for any genuine reconciliation effort in Sri Lanka. We welcome, in this respect, the recent efforts of the OMP in consulting with civil society representatives to improve its work for the victims. Such collaboration is essential to ensuring that the voices of those most affected are heard and that their needs are met. These consultations are needed to create trust. The lack of trust of the families of the missing in the relevant institution is still a challenge. For many years, these families have searched for information about their loved ones through various official and unofficial channels, often with little success. The tracing process should take into consideration the evidentiary hurdles faced by these families and ensure a consistent application of international human rights law and best practices. And it needs, of course, adequate financial, technical, and human resources. We commend the government of Sri Lanka for its efforts in implementing a tracing process in line with the international standards and with the core mandate of the OMP. Providing answers to the families and making substantial progress on the issue of missing persons through an effective and efficient OMP will also contribute to a larger national unity and reconciliation process and not remain prisoners of the past, as the Honourable Minister said. In conclusion, I would like to encourage the government of Sri Lanka to continue its focus on the right to know by providing adequate political support and institutional capacity to the OMP. This responsibility lies with the state, regardless of who or what group is responsible for these heinous acts. Through our expertise in dealing with the past and facilitating dialogue, Switzerland is ready to support these efforts, together with families across the country, civil society representatives, and the government, to ensure that the rights of the victims are upheld. Thank you very much.
Invite Honourable Minister M.U.M. Ali Sabri, PC, Minister of Justice, to address the gathering.
It's your day. Honourable the Attorney General, Your Excellencies, Chairman and Board Members of the Missing Persons, and other respected members of various government authorities, particularly in relating to reconciliation, ONUR, OR, USLA, Interim Secretariat, and all those things. Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I'm very sorry that you will understand. I have two ministries to juggle and also last stage of a very, very closely fought presidential campaign. So without notice, sometime I had to compel them to give me a little bit of a speech in advance so that I can go and attend the other things. So first of all, sorry about it. But let me say one thing. As a government, we are very, very committed. We understand your pain. We understand your pain. We understand your desire to get to know what you want to, what has happened to your loved ones. We don't take it as another statutory obligation. We take it as personal passion that we must do everything possible in our hand and our authority to find what has happened to your loved ones. It's not a great record to say that we have a missing persons organization. But if you do not have it, you have no place to go. So therefore, as a respected member of the international community, we have taken the onus and responsibility to say that yes, we have a problem. That's the first step. Then we have set up a mechanism how to deal with it. When I took over Justice Ministry in 2020, I had a review of these organizations. One was OMP, senior members of the Justice Ministries here. The whole thing, when I took over, there was about 67 cases which are reported out of 6,200 cases from 2000 to 2009. I realized I had something wrong. Went to cabinet. I wanted fresh blood to come in, youngsters to come in with passion to work on this. We changed along with the experience of course, we changed the board, brought new people in. I realized 7 people tried to go and inquire themselves about 6,047 cases of missing people from 2000 to 2009, which is our immediate priority, would take about 15 years. So we decided that we'll went to a cabinet and to establish 25 different panels of 75 people. And to have one of them at least in every panel, a Tamil speaking person, so that they can relate to them. I knew there was so much of anger and also mistrust about the whole thing. When they initially went to set up, we said that this is eyewash. And politicians and the so-called civil society, some of them, did not help either. Without giving us the benefit of the doubt, they played us out and saying that it's not, it's eyewash. No, we were passionate. I realized we need to give a kickstart to this. Then in 2022 January, I'm proud that we went to the doorstep of those in 5 districts and introduced a mobile system, so that instead they come in here. You can't expect them because they are distraught, they are going up and down. We decided we will go there. As a result of which, today, out of we different people in different parts of the world, without knowing what is happening in this country, without knowing how close we are for each other, despite our problems, give various numbers. But we have got all the number advertised 5-6 times in all languages, collated all evidence from all over, from ICRC to the UN to everyone, and said that whoever missing persons are, please come and register with us. And as a result of which, we have information today, from 1980 to today, yet close to 14,500 people are missing. That's the number. We have a problem. Nobody is saying no. But we don't have the problem of the magnitude which others in different earlier part of the world is trying to portray. Out of which, we categorize into 3 regions. Before 90, 90 to 2000, 2000 to 2009. So 2000 to 2009 crucial period, which is where the case is live. People still have hope that their loved ones would be found somewhere. There are 6,047 cases. Is that right, Chairman? 6,047 cases. Out of which, I'm happy to say, 5,750 families have approached us, expecting something. That's the first instance. That is the trust to be built with us. On the mechanism, despite everybody name calling and trying to shame this, what does it show? It shows people who are suffering want solution. Whereas somebody had taken it out of context to make it a political slogan. Some others take it out of context to make it a slogan to get some funding to the NGOs. Not everyone. But people who are realistic have come before us and saying that we want a solution to our problem. I understand that. So it's our obligation, with passion, mete out that justice to them. It's very, very important. First step is to welcome them, talk to them, listen to them, understand their pain. That's the first step. So they will have trust on the mechanism. Second step is the immediate solution. Some of their properties are unresolved. Some of their issues are unresolved. So whether they are come to terms with the absence of citizens, the certificate of absence or death certificate. Thirdly, they were compensation for reparation. How to provide it. But that's only, in my opinion, 10% of the job done. The biggest job in our hand is to trace them. We must give them a reasonable answer, and tell them this is the possibility which could have happened. I have spoken to ICRC. I'm happy the Swiss Embassy has helped us to set up this tracing unit. So next step, we have to put all our effort to try and trace them all together. We don't want any assumption. Similar to this, during the same period, there were 4,000, close to 4,000, 3,700 odd. Sri Lankan armed forces were also missing. This is the pain of conflict. They were initially categorized, some of the members of the armed forces are here, as missing in action. Because we have their numbers and we knew that they went for confrontation and did not come back, we officially categorized them as killed in action. So I myself had the privilege of talking to about 6-7 parents when I was in Mullaitivu. Most of them the same story, very painful. My child was 17 years. My child was taken away. They call it as yakkam. You all know what they mean. And they were last seen in this place. And since then we have not heard of it. So therefore it's important they find out, coordinate, cooperate, and tell them what happened to their loved ones. And they have to move on. It is important that we need to be open for this, talk to them, and find solution. Both whether they are south or north or anywhere, they are all us. They are all human, they are all Sri Lankans. And we need to have that kind of passion to resolve their issues. As a government, we are committed to do this. Last cabinet also we took up that any support which is required going forward in terms of further manpower, resources, we are committed to do that because this has to be resolved and there has to be a closure either way. That closure must be dignified, acceptable to the loved ones' families, not at the terms of the government. Very, very important. While we not allow this to be hijacked by some people on various extraneous reasons in different capitals, which we do not agree, we cannot shrug off the cases of those loved ones. We need to have the empathy to understand their pain and resolve that issues. And whatever it is the outcome, we need to tell them the truth. Sometimes it's very painful. But that truth can only be told after all the efforts are being made. And it should be credible. We can't just say that on assumption this has happened. That's why it's very, very important that we must continue to work on that. Please prepare that. I'm happy that within a short period of time, from 60 cases, you have gone up to 600 cases, 6,000 cases. It means that they are confident. That's only the first step. You can't betray that confidence. You can't betray that trust. We can't take it for granted. So let me, on behalf of the government of Sri Lanka, to tell you that we understand your pain. We are with you. We will try to resolve this. And one good thing is ever since the end of the conflict. So many people have been taken out of the Spain. That's the good part of it. You know, imagine this conflict continued. Many thousand more would have gone through the same pain. So we need to come to terms with it. Sometimes we have to give and take. It's important that we do that. As Justice Minister, I was able to convince former President and the current President to pardon 27 LTT cadres. 27 of them convicted. Why? Because we thought we need to have a closure on this. They did fight, not that they believed in a particular person. It went out of control. Instead of a struggle that became terrorism. So, but they were also misled. So we decided it's time that they must be given a second chance. 12,197, I always say this. Sometimes Sri Lanka does not get the credit which due to it. 12,197 known, identified LTT cadres surrendered post-conflict to Sri Lankan government. We rehabilitated all of them, reintegrated to the society. And for their credit, I don't think any one of them in the soil in Sri Lanka had gone back to violence or terrorism. So similarly, we also need to work hard on that to build this trust. For First and Second World War was fought in Europe. It is they who fought. And they brought the entire, dragged the whole world into this. And that's the biggest conflict in the world. That's why that's called World War I and II. Germany, Italy, France and UK and their allies. But you must learn one thing from that. After the Second World War, they realized the uselessness of war and conflict. And 20 years down the line, they managed to get through back, establish a European Union, trust each other under the Schuman Plan. And today you can see, all of us want to, not me, most of us want to migrate to Europe because they have uplifted their standard so well. So if that is possible, countries which are killing each other, dragging the whole world to the Second World War and the First World War, we are children of the same mothers and fathers, children of the same land. We cannot be prisoners of the past. There has to be a time we must come together as Sri Lankans. That's the day we can really reach our potential. So it's possible, but it's only possible when we all work hard, wholeheartedly, not to be silenced by very few loud voices of extremism from in both North and the South. We should be able to disregard them, move on, do the right thing, bring the key people together and create that Sri Lanka we all could be proud of. In that, OMP has a massive role to play. I hope and wish that you will have the courage and strength to do so and do the right thing despite all this distraction, false accusation. The moment we come out with a law to provide an opportunity for people to come and tell their grievances and resolve the issues, truth and reconciliation. Some people are going into these things and we are trying to put our forces into trouble. Will we do? Are we insane? We are here to find the truth, provide an opportunity to people and found solution. But in the process, under the guise of fighting an LTTE, if somebody had private affairs on that, gone beyond it and taken the law into their own hand, they deserve to be punished to protect the good name of the entirety of the military. And we will not be hesitant to do it. Because that's the right thing to do for the rest of our heroes. They gave their life, limbs, 27,000 of them. So therefore I don't make much of your time. But first of all, let me again congratulate for great work what you have done. long way to go. This is the beginning, but we must work together as Sri Lankans to find solution to these issues that we have. But don't be discouraged. People will come and give us sometime different timelines. But look back and ask on their timelines. No world is perfect. No country is perfect. All countries are work in progress. Some of the countries are apologizing for things which happened 300 years ago. Canada is apologizing for things which had happened 200 years ago. So, I know 15 years is a long time, but don't be discouraged. And to the international community, don't come and tell us and teach us and put your agenda inside here. We are not going to be intimidated by your unfair interference into our internal affairs. But I must tell you, we are very grateful. The understanding international community who have supported us work, who have given us technical support, who have understood what is happening here. That's what we want. Because your policy about Sri Lanka and the Human Rights Council should not be based on little diaspora on the basis of vote banks in those electorates, because that is not helpful for us. That will further divide our people here in Sri Lanka. Because our obligation is not to few people who are concentrated on your electorate and your members' electorate and his next election. Our responsibility is for 22 million people here in Sri Lanka to bring peace to them. So we will not be intimidated by their overtures, their unfair criticism. And subject to that, we will work with the international community as respected members of international community in a dignified manner, because it's our obligation to provide solution to our people who are lost. Thank you so very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Attorney General, Excellencies, family members of the missing persons, distinguished delegates, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the close of this significant commemoration of the International Day of Disappearance, it is my privilege to extend our heartfelt thanks to all who have made this event both meaningful and impactful. First and foremost, I wish to express our deep gratitude to Honorable Minister Mr. Ali Sabri, President's Council, for his insightful keynote address, and his words underscored the gravity of our mission and the vital importance of justice and truth in our collective journey towards reconciliation. Our sincere thanks goes to His Excellency Dr. Siri Wald, the Swiss Ambassador, and His Excellency Sandil Edwin Schock, the South African Ambassador, for their presence and their invaluable contributions to today's dialogue. Your perspectives have enriched our understanding and strengthened the international solidarity that is crucial in addressing the issue of enforced disappearances. I also extend a heartfelt thanks to the Honorable Attorney General, the Additional Solicitor General, members of the missing person families, to the Secretary of the Ministry of Justice and Prison Affairs, the officials who are present today representing the Embassy of US and UK, and also to the Chairman of ONUR and to the Chairman of OR, and all the senior officials representing the Ministry, and the officials who are representing the Tri-Forces and Police Department, and all other government officials for your presence and encouragement in today's event. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to our chairman, the members of the board, the executive director, and all the dedicated staff of the Office on Missing Persons. Your tireless efforts guidance and support are the backbone of the work that what we do, and today's event is a testament to your commitment. A special thanks to the organizers and the team at the Hector Kobbakadu Agrarian Research and Training Institute for providing this venue and ensuring that today's event was conducted seamlessly. I also extend our heartfelt gratitude to the chairman of the Victim Protection Authority and its officials. Lastly, I extend our gratitude to each of you who joined us today, whether in person or in spirit. Your presence is a powerful reminder that the struggle for truth, justice and reconciliation is a shared responsibility that we all must carry forward. Let us leave here today with a renewed commitment to continue this important work, to support the families of the disappeared, and to ensure that their search for truth and justice is not in vain. I thank you all.